In this video, we will be discussing about the approach to the patient with liver disease. Basically, it is a video which will be uploaded in the playlist of hepatology, right? So, we will be discussing the approach to the patient. I mean, this is the starting lecture or starting kind of discussion as far as hepatology is concerned. Liver is the largest organ of the body with a weight of 1 to 1.5 kg. Cells in the liver are of three types: hepatocytes, Kupffer cells. Kupffer cells are basically macrophages of the liver. They are a part of the reticuloendothelial system of the body. Stellate cells, also known as Ito cells or fat storing cells. They are specialized for storing the fat. Functions of liver: synthesis of proteins, for example, albumin, fibrinogen, clotting factors, and many others. Production of bile. Bile has many functions: alkalinizing the pH of the intestine, absorption of fats, absorption of fat soluble vitamins, etc. Regulation of nutrients. I mean to say that by nutrients like amino acids, glucose, gluconeogenesis, storage of glucose, right? Production of other amino acids from the amino acids that we ingest, right? Formation of phospholipids, vitamin E, as well as lipoprotein metabolism. This is these all nutrients are regulated by the liver itself. Conjugation of various compounds for the purpose of activation, deactivation, detoxification, etc. Conjugation is very important function of the liver. Excretion of various metabolites, various toxic substances from the body in the form of bile. So these are the functions of liver. Liver diseases. I mean, what are the patterns of liver disease? We are discussing about the patterns of liver per se. Patterns of liver injury. There are basically three types of patterns of injury in the liver. One is the hepatocellular, mainly hepatocyte necrosis, in which there will be elevation of AST and ALT. Right? There will be elevation of AST and ALT. There will be elevation of unconjugated bilirubin. Bilirubin. ALP may be normal. GGT may be normal. The second pattern is the cholestatic pattern. In cholestatic pattern, there will be elevation of conjugated or direct bilirubin. Right. There will be elevation of alkaline phosphatase and GGT. So there is basically obstruction. The most common cause is gallstones or bile duct stones. There can be a mixed pattern in which there will be features of both hepatocellular pattern as well as cholestatic pattern. What is the purpose of evaluation? Basically, we have to find out the etiology. Okay, what is the underlying cause of the liver injury? Then severity or grading. Very important. What is the severity of the disease? How do we grade the disease? Then is the staging. Means in the course of disease, what is the point of disease in the course of time that we are referring to at the present moment. So staging is kind of progression, how much disease has progressed, whether it has started or it has completely, landed up to the end stage liver diseases, or it is cirrhosis. So this is the staging. How do we stage? How do we grade? We will read in the further slides, but we do liver biopsy to do the same. How do we approach? First of all, we will take clinical history of the patient. The patient will tell us the signs and he will tell us the symptoms basically. He will tell us the complaints, he will tell us a particular history which will pertain to certain symptoms, and which then these symptoms they are mostly seen in liver diseases, so our suspicion will go towards liver disease. First is the fatigue, right? Fatigue is the most common and most characteristic symptom of liver disease. The patient with liver disease will come to you with the chief complaint of fatigue कि डॉक्टर साहब मैं बहुत थका थका रह हूँ. Second is the nausea. Third is right upper quadrant pain because of hepatomegaly, because of inflammation of liver, because of inflammation of Gleason's capsule, because of distension of Gleason's capsule. Right upper quadrant pain, which is very non-specific in nature. It may be it may be seen in normal individuals also because of dyspepsia or so, but right upper quadrant pain is one thing which is told by the patients with liver injury. Then is the itching. Itching is basically due to bilirubin and other bile salts, which are deposited in the skin and they cause itching. Then is the jaundice. Obviously, yellowish discoloration of skin and sclera is called jaundice. Then history of alcohol intake will be given by the patient with daily. कि डॉक्टर साहब रोज दारू पीता है. Family history in case of Wilson's disease, hemochromatosis, and alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. Right? So in history we have two things: history of alcohol, history of some drugs, history of not only alcohol, some drugs also. Family history of Wilson disease, hemochromatosis, alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. Then we come on to physical examination, what we will see in the patient in the form of signs. First of all, we will see the icterus. आंखें पीली हैं, चमड़ी पीली है, soles पीली हैं. If serum bilirubin is more than 2.5 milligram per deciliter, only then visible changes in sclera will be seen. Sclera is the first part of the body where we can see yellowish discoloration. We can see icterus, and the level of bilirubin required for the same is 2.5 milligram per deciliter, more than or equal to. Then is the spider angiomata. Spider angiomata is basically dilatation of the arterioles. There is pinhead-sized central arteriole and peripheral arterioles or capillaries. They arise from the central arteriole, and it takes the form of a spider. It is basically because of estrogen. It is postulated so, or hormonal imbalance. Then is the hepatomegaly. Hepatomegaly is a very reliable sign of cirrhosis also. We see that there is shrunken liver in cirrhosis, but at the same time there may be cirrhosis and there may be enlargement of the liver and there may be coarse margins also. Right. Then there is splenomegaly. Why splenomegaly? Because of portal hypertension. In case of long-standing disease or in case of cirrhosis, there may be muscle wasting and weight loss. Then ascites is also a feature of cirrhosis. Then signs of liver failure. These above are all are the signs of liver injury. Now, what is liver failure? Failure means the liver is not able to do its function. The function of liver is to detoxify. It will not detoxify. The toxins will reach the brain and they will cause encephalopathy, otherwise known as hepatic encephalopathy. Then there can be coagulopathy, very important. Liver synthesizes clotting factors. If clotting factors are not synthesized, there will be dysregulation of clotting cascade, and it will lead to coagulopathy eventually. Then refractory ascites. So these are all the complications of liver failure. Then hyperpigmentation. I have yesterday seen a patient in the OPD in which a lady, 45 years old lady, came in the OPD and she showed her reports, and she came out to be HCV positive, and ultrasound showed that there are coarse coarse margins of the liver. So it was basically a case of chronic liver disease, cirrhosis, and the patient was showing hyperpigmentation. The patient had hyperpigmentation, I mean slate gray like discoloration of the skin and certain kind of thickness and very peculiar kind of appearance of the skin. That is seen in hemochromatosis also, as it is highlighted in here. I have particularly highlighted because of this slate gray pigmentation. Though the patient was CLD because of HCV positive, but there may be underlying hemochromatosis also, which could have further, augmented the process of liver injury and cirrhosis. So that patient needed further evaluation also. Uh, Means sometimes there can be two etiologies also, and we have to keep an eye of suspicion in such cases. Other cases in which hyperpigmentation is seen is primary biliary cholangitis and sclerosing cholangitis. So, three disorders in which there is hyperpigmentation: one is primary biliary cholangitis, sclerosing cholangitis, and hemochromatosis. Then is the mucocutaneous vasculitis. Vasculitis with palpable purpura. It is basically because of cryoglobulinemia. Cryoglobulinemia causes vasculitis, vasculitis causes palpable purpura, purpura is seen in lower extremities, and cryoglobulinemia is seen in, more commonly seen in chronic hepatitis C, though it is also seen in chronic hepatitis B. Then there are some findings that we may see in Wilson disease, that is KF rings, which is Descemet's membrane, deposition of copper in the Descemet's membrane. Parotid enlargement and dupuytren's contracture is very commonly seen in alcoholics, and they have usually also developed some liver injury, and maybe they'll end up in cirrhosis and come to you in the emergency department. So you might be able to appreciate parotid enlargement as well as dupuytren's contracture. So these were all the signs of liver injury. Now comes the diagnosis of liver disease. Now we have come to a point where we can say that this is a patient which has some kind of liver injury or some kind of liver disease. Now we have to find the cause of the liver injury. What is the underlying etiology? So we have to do some more specific tests for those disorders which are known to cause liver injury. For example, viral hepatitis, autoimmune hepatitis, right? Primary biliary cholangitis, sclerosing cholangitis, drug-induced liver injury, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis and cirrhosis, alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, Wilson's disease, hemochromatosis, hepatocellular carcinoma. So we have to do the tests which are particular to these diseases. These diseases are known to cause liver disease. So for hepatitis A, we will do anti-hepatitis A antibody IgM type, because hepatitis A causes acute liver injury only. Hepatitis B can cause acute as well as chronic. For acute, we will do HBs antigen and anti-HBC IgM antibody. For chronic hepatitis B, we will again do HBs antigen and HBe antigen or HBV DNA viral load. Right, DNA will be formed. Is a marker of replication, and replication can occur only if there is chronic kind of illness. Right, and E antigen is also seen most commonly in chronic hepatitis B. Then I have underlined some important causes of liver injury. For example, autoimmune hepatitis. In autoimmune hepatitis, we do anti-neutrophil antibody and anti-nuclear antibody, sorry, ANA, or anti-smooth muscle antibody, SMA. So ANA and SMA are done in autoimmune hepatitis. This is all which needs to be crammed, right? So this is basically a discussion only to underline the important causes, right? This is a table from the Harrison. You can always go around and check out it again and again and read, and mug the things up, because these are the things which need to be crammed. There is nothing to be understood. But yes, learning one thing will help remembering the other thing. Right? Autoimmune hepatitis, ANA or smooth muscle antibody. PBC, primary biliary cholangitis, which was previously known as primary biliary cirrhosis. These are the same thing. We do anti-mitochondrial antibody. Very important. Asked multiple number of times in entrance exams also. Primary sclerosing cholangitis. We do P-ANCA and cholangiography. Drug-induced liver injury. Patient will give a history of drug ingestion. Non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. We do ultrasound or CT scan to find out the fat in the liver. Ultrasound is more routinely done. Why? Because CT exposes the patient to the radiation. Better is MRI, but MRI is not widely available, so ultrasound is most commonly done. It will show fatty liver. Alpha 1 antitrypsin disease, we can always look out for antitrypsin levels and they will be reduced in deficiency. Wilson disease, very important. Wilson disease, we check serum ceruloplasmin, which is decreased, and we check urinary and hepatic copper, which is increased. Right? Copper is increased, ceruloplasmin is decreased. Means all the copper of the body, it gets deposited in the liver and it gets thrown out of the body in the form of in the urine itself. So urine copper increases, liver copper increases, ceruloplasmin decreases. Hemochromatosis will show elevated iron saturation and serum ferritin, and saturation will be increased, ferritin will be increased. And it is basically hemochromatosis. We can always do genetic testing for HFE gene. Hepatocellular cancer, very infamous, very infamous. Alpha fetoprotein, alpha fetoprotein, which will be very much elevated to more than 5,000 nanogram per ml. So these are all the specific tests which need to be done in case of liver disease, right? Now there is an algorithm which is used for the diagnosis of liver disease, that how do we do a stepwise approach in a patient of suspected liver disease. It can be acute, it can be chronic. For example, if a patient has reports and reports show that there are abnormal liver functions from last 2 years or so, means more than 6 months, or there may be an acute illness in which we do not have previous history, and patient comes to us with suspected liver injury signs, and we do liver panel and it becomes abnormal, we will classify it as acute liver injury or acute liver disease. So whether acute or chronic, we have to look for the pattern of liver injury, whether it is hepatocellular, whether it is cholestatic, or it is mixed. Hepatocellular and mixed diseases have similar etiology. We have to do HIV, hepatitis B, right? Hepatitis C, ANA is done for autoimmune hepatitis, smooth muscle antibody also for autoimmune hepatitis. Wilson disease, which can present as acute liver injury, alcohol history and drug history. So this is basically hepatocellular pattern of acute liver injury. For cholestatic pattern, it is very important to remember the drugs. Amoxiclav, very important. Anti-mitochondrial antibody for primary biliary cholangitis. Ultrasound MRI for NASH. MRCP, ERCP for some, primary sclerosing cholangitis, means disease of the bile ducts. So cholestasis can occur in these diseases, and these are the tests that need to be done. Similarly, for chronic hepatocellular and mixed, same panel. Cholestasis, same panel, right? A very few differences, but almost same panel. Only we do P-ANCA in this. P-ANCA is basically for, I think P-ANCA is for, let me see, primary sclerosing cholangitis, right? So these are the tests which need to be done. Once we find out the tests, so we will make the diagnosis. But there are some cases in which diagnosis is not, confirmed despite above investigations. So we do liver biopsy in such cases, right? Liver biopsy is reserved in chronic liver disease if we do not reach to a diagnosis with all the lab investigations, serology and all that stuff, right? So this is the algorithm for the diagnosis of liver disease. Now, grading and staging of liver disease. How do you grade and stage liver disease? One test, that is liver biopsy, for both grading and staging. Once we do liver biopsy, we will understand the fibrosis. We will be able to understand the zonal distribution. We will be able to understand whether cirrhosis has developed or fibrosis stage F0, F1, F2, F3, F4, or whatever. So according to the pathology, according to the slides, according to the biopsy reports, we can understand the staging of the disease, how much disease has progressed. Etiology, it can be, it can be ascertained to some extent with the help of this liver biopsy, because we can see the zonal involvement of the hepatic globules, that zone 1 perivenular or periportal zone is involved. So different etiologies, they involve different zones, and we can understand to some extent that what could be the etiology of the liver disease. Grading can also be seen, how much is the extent of the disease in liver biopsy to some extent. There are some, we know that liver biopsy is not without complications like bleeding, like hematoma formation, right, like collapse, and there are some contraindications to biopsy also, right. So we can employ some non-invasive investigations also for understanding hepatic, for assessing hepatic fibrosis and cirrhosis, right. It is not always necessary to do a biopsy in a patient to know whether the liver has undergone cirrhosis or not. We can always, use non-invasive methods. They have very good sensitivity and specificity, but only for moderate to severe fibrosis and cirrhosis only. For mild fibrosis, we have always to rely upon the biopsy. But if the cirrhosis is moderate to severe, we can rely on the non-invasive tests. There are 6 tests which are given in the table. The table is from Harrison's. First is the APRI, second is the ELF, third is the FIB-4, fourth is the Fibro test, fifth is the transient elastography, also known as FibroScan. FibroScan, Fibro test, and FIB-4 are 3 different tests. TE is FibroScan. TE means transient elastography. Sixth is the ERFI, acoustic radiation focused imaging, something like that. A is the full form of this test. As far as APRI is concerned, we use AST and platelets to understand the APRI score. ELF we use age, hyaluronic acid, MMP3, TIMP1. FIB4 we use age, AST, ALT, platelet count. Fibro test, it is a question asked in the NEET also. What we use, NEET SS. What do we use in fibro test? We use haptoglobin, we use alpha 2 microglobulin, we use apolipoprotein A1, alpha gamma GT, total bilirubin. So these are the tests that we use in fibro test. Transient elastography is basically a kind of ultrasound, or a kind of shear wave which is generated by vibration through the liver tissue. So transient elastography is totally, it has a different set of instruments which is employed to understand the cirrhosis. RFE also measures the speed of shear wave generated by acoustic radiation force through liver tissue. Right. So these are the tests for non-invasive tests for assessing hepatic fibrosis and cirrhosis. Once we have come to the conclusion that there is cirrhosis, what we will do now? The patient has cirrhosis. Now we will, try to classify the patient into whether the patient has compensated cirrhosis or he has decompensated cirrhosis. We have Child-Pugh score for that. We have MELD score for that. We have PELD score for that for children less than 12 years of age. Right. These tests are employed, these scores are employed to understand whether the patient is compensated or decompensated, and at the same time, we can understand that what is the prognosis of the patient, what is the priority of liver transplantation in this patient, whether the liver transplantation is beneficial in this patient or not. So these are the tests that are done after we come to a certain diagnosis. So this is the approach to the liver disease patient. Once we will recap all the stuff and try to understand it in a rapid manner. Largest organ 1.5 kg, Cells three types: hepatocytes, Kupffer cells, stellate cells. Functions five some functions: synthesis of proteins, production of bile, regulation of nutrients, conjugation, and excretion. Patterns of liver disease three types: cellular, cholestatic, mixed. Purpose of evaluation: etiology, grading, staging. Clinical history: patient will tell the symptoms. Many symptoms: itching, jaundice, history, right, and fatigue, nausea, right upper quadrant pain. Two which are never to be forgotten are fatigue and right upper quadrant pain. What are the signs? Icterus, spider angiomata, hepatomegaly, splenomegaly, muscle wasting and weight loss, ascites, signs of liver failure. Failure means encephalopathy and coagulopathy.